The Diaper Cure, a love story from Wiesbaden, Germany, 1960, by Sylvester Sco-Foru. Let me tell you about the worst year of my life that somehow turned into the best year of my life, all because of a beautiful blonde girl, a dirty diaper, and the kind of desperation only a 16-year-old boy with a face like a pepperoni pizza can truly understand. It was 1960, and I was a junior at General H. H. Arnold High School in Wiesbaden, Germany, home of the brave, land of the free, and apparently the perfect place for the Air Force to station my father while I suffered through the most awkward phase of human development ever documented. At 6'3", I should have been confident, athletic, popular. Instead, I was a walking collection of insecurities held together by noxema and prayer, neither of which was working. My acne wasn't just bad, it was legendary. I'm talking Mount Vesuvius on a bad day. I'm talking about a topographical map of the Himalayas. Kids in the hallway would literally step aside when they saw me coming, not out of respect, but because they were genuinely concerned I might be contagious. I'd tried everything. Noxema, which just made me smell like a mentholated disaster, Clearasil, which turned my face orange, some weird German cream the base doctor prescribed that I'm pretty sure was just mayonnaise with a fancy label. Nothing worked. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me paint you a picture of my life before everything changed. We lived in a 3-story brick house in the auxiliary housing area, one of those sturdy German buildings that looked like it could survive another world war without breaking a sweat. My father was Air Force, a career man with that military posture that made even his casual clothes look like a uniform. My mother was beautiful, I mean genuinely, stop you in your tracks beautiful, with dark hair and eyes that could make you confess to crimes you didn't commit. How she ended up with my dad, I'll never understand. But they were happy, and that was something. My sister Marie was 2 years younger than me and had somehow inherited all the good genes. She was pretty, popular, and possessed the supernatural ability to make me look stupid without even trying. My little brother Paul, we called him Skipper because he was obsessed with boats despite living in landlocked Germany, was 7 and mostly harmless, except when he'd barge into my room at the worst possible moments. "What you doing?" he'd ask, and I'd have to quickly hide whatever I was doing, which was usually staring at myself in the mirror, trying to will my face into normalcy through sheer force of concentration. My room was my sanctuary. I had a record player, a beautiful Telefunken that my dad had bought from a German shop downtown, and I'd play my Elvis Presley and Brenda Lee records with the window open, hoping that somehow the music would make me seem cool and mysterious to anyone passing by. In reality, I probably just seemed like the weird American kid who played Sweet Nothings 17 times in a row while staring longingly out the window. What was I staring at? Sandy Morrison's house, 3 doors down. Sandy. Oh, Sandy. Sandy with the auburn hair that caught the sunlight like copper wire. Sandy with the green eyes and the laugh that sounded like wind chimes. Sandy, who sat 2 rows ahead of me in Mr. Patterson's American history class, and who had absolutely no idea I existed, despite my best efforts to make her notice me. And boy, had I tried. There was the time I volunteered to recite the Gettysburg Address in front of the class. I'd practiced for weeks, had it memorized perfectly. I figured if I could deliver it with enough gravitas and passion, Sandy would see me as intellectual, deep, presidential even. Instead, I got so nervous standing up there, with her actually looking at me for once, that my bladder decided to stage a coup. 77 years ago, I began, my voice cracking like I was going through puberty again. Our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created. That's when I felt it. The warmth, the horror, the unmistakable sensation of my body betraying me in the most public way possible. I looked down, dark stains spreading across my khaki pants like an oil spill. The class went silent for exactly 2 seconds, the longest 2 seconds of my life, and then the laughter erupted. Not polite chuckling, full-throated, tears streaming down faces, slapping desks, laughter. And Sandy, beautiful, perfect Sandy, was laughing hardest of all, her hand over her mouth, her shoulders shaking. I ran, just bolted out of that classroom like my pants were on fire, which would have been preferable to what had actually happened. I spent the rest of the day in the nurse's office, wearing borrowed gym shorts that were 3 sizes too small, contemplating whether it was possible to transfer to a school in another dimension. After that, I tried to reinvent myself. I took up boxing at the base gym, figuring if I couldn't be popular, I could at least be tough. And you know what? I was pretty good. I knocked out most of the guys who challenged me, not because I was particularly skilled, but because I was tall and had long arms and was fueled by the kind of rage that only comes from profound social humiliation. I was feeling pretty good about myself until Hans showed up. Hans was a German exchange student, 6'7", built like a panzer tank, with a square jaw and blonde hair that probably had its own fan club. He spoke perfect English with just enough of an accent to make girls swoon. "I hear you are the boxer," he said to me one day at the gym, his blue eyes twinkling with amusement. "I do okay," I said, trying to sound casual. "Perhaps we spar, yes?" It lasted exactly 43 seconds. I know because the gym clock was right behind Hans's head, and I was staring at it, trying to find an opening, when his fist connected with my jaw, and the clock suddenly multiplied into 3 clocks. Then 6. Then I was on the mat, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was what death felt like. When I came to, Hans was standing over me, offering his hand. "Good fight," he said cheerfully. "You have heart." I had a concussion, but sure, heart too. After that, I gave up on being tough and retreated to my true comfort zone, the bathroom, with my contraband Playboy magazines that I kept hidden in a hollowed-out copy of Moby Dick. I figured no one would ever look inside a book that thick. I'd lock the door, sit on the closed toilet lid, and flip through those pages, marveling at women who looked nothing like the girls at school and who definitely wouldn't laugh if you peed your pants in front of them. Probably, "You okay in there?" my mom would call through the door. "Fine. Just stomach problems." "Again? Maybe we should take you to the doctor." "No, I'm fine. It's just the German food." This was my life. This was my existence. Wake up, look in mirror, despair at face. Go to school. Try not to make eye contact with Sandy. Come home. Listen to Elvis. Retreat to bathroom. Repeat. And then Charlotte arrived, and everything changed. It was a Tuesday in October when my dad came home with the news. "We're getting a boarder," he announced at dinner, passing the Sauerbraten that our German housekeeper, Frau Müller, had prepared. "Student from the base. Her father's being deployed to Turkey for 6 months, and she needs a place to stay." "A girl?" Marie perked up immediately. "A young lady," my father corrected. "Charlotte Brennan. She's a senior. I expect everyone to make her feel welcome and respect her privacy." He looked directly at me when he said that last part. "Why are you looking at me?" I protested. "No reason," he said, but his eyes said, "Asterisk. I know about the Playboy magazine, son, and if you so much as think about this girl inappropriately, I will make you do push-ups until you're a senior citizen." Asterisk. Charlotte, or Charliette, as her name was actually spelled, though everyone just called her Charlotte, arrived on a Saturday morning. I was in my room, playing It's Now or Never, and working up the courage to maybe, possibly, perhaps, walk past Sandy's house later, when I heard the taxi pull up. I went to the window and looked down. The taxi door opened, and a leg emerged. Not just any leg, a perfect, tanned, impossibly long leg that seemed to go on forever. Then another leg, then the rest of her. She was blonde, not dishwater blonde or dirty blonde or any of those disappointing blondes. Golden blonde, California blonde, the kind of blonde that made you understand why gentlemen preferred them. She wore a blue skirt that matched her eyes. I couldn't see her eyes yet, but I knew they'd be blue, because of course they would be, and as she bent to retrieve her suitcase from the taxi, the skirt pulled up over her knees, and I experienced what I can only describe as a religious awakening. Dear God, I whispered. What? Skipper had appeared beside me, standing on my desk chair to see out the window. Nothing. Get out of my room. Is that the boarder? She's pretty. You're 7. You don't know what pretty is. I know what pretty is. Marie's pretty. Mom's pretty. That lady's pretty. Out. I watched Charlotte Charliot walk up to our front door, her blonde hair swinging with each step. My mother opened the door, and I could hear the muffled sounds of greetings and introductions. My father's deep voice, Charlotte's lighter one, musical and warm. Kids, my mother called up the stairs. Come meet Charlotte. I looked in the mirror. Disaster. My face looked like a before picture in an acne medication ad. My hair was doing that thing where it stuck up in the back no matter how much Brill cream I used. I was wearing my I Survived the Alamo t-shirt that Skipper had gotten me as a joke, which now seemed like the least cool shirt in the history of shirts. No time to change. I headed downstairs, trying to arrange my face into something approximating normal human expression. Charlotte was standing in our living room, and up close, she was even more devastating. Blue eyes, yes. A smile that could probably end wars. And she was tall, maybe 5'9", which meant she wasn't that much shorter than me, which somehow made it worse because she could look directly at my acne without even trying. You must be the man of the house, she said, extending her hand. I'm Charlotte. I'm... My brain had apparently forgotten my name. I live here. His name is Michael, my mother said, giving me a look that said, asterisk. Please don't embarrass me in front of this nice girl. Asterisk. Michael, Charlotte repeated, shaking my hand. Her grip was firm, confident. Nice to meet you. You too, I managed. Welcome to Germany. I mean, you're already in Germany. Welcome to our house. In Germany. Marie rolled her eyes so hard, I'm surprised they didn't fall out of her head. My father showed Charlotte to her room, the attic room, which we'd converted into a bedroom over the summer. It had slanted ceilings and a dormer window that looked out over the neighborhood. It was cozy, private, and exactly 1 floor above my bedroom, a fact that would torment me for months. That first week, Charlotte became part of the family with an ease that seemed almost magical. She helped my mother with dinner, played board games with Skipper, talked about boys and makeup with Marie. She was funny, smart, kind. She laughed at my dad's terrible jokes. She complimented Frau Mueller's cooking in broken German that made Frau Mueller beam with pride. And she was nice to me, not pity nice, actually nice. What are you listening to? She asked one afternoon, appearing in my doorway while All I Have to Do Is Dream played on my record player. Everly Brothers, I said, trying to act casual, like beautiful senior girls wandered into my room all the time. I love this song, she said. And then I swear this happened, she started singing along. Her voice was pretty, a little breathy, and she knew all the words. When the song ended, she smiled at me. You have good taste in music, Michael. After she left, I sat on my bed for 20 minutes, just staring at the wall, trying to process what had happened. A beautiful girl had been in my room, had complimented me, had sung in my room. I went to the bathroom with my Playboy, but my heart wasn't in it. The women in the magazine suddenly seemed less interesting than the real girl living in my attic. Charlotte and I were in the same grade. Technically, she was a senior, I was a junior, but we'd both been held back at different points. She'd missed a year due to moving around with her military family. I'd failed first grade because I'd spent the entire year convinced that the teacher was a witch who was going to eat me. In my defense, Mrs. Kowalski did have a very prominent nose and a concerning interest in gingerbread. At school, though, we barely interacted. Charlotte had her own friends, other seniors, popular kids, the kind of people who didn't pee their pants during historical speeches. I'd see her in the hallways, laughing with her friends, and she'd give me a little wave, but that was it. At home, it was different. Michael, she'd call down from her attic room. Can you come here for a second? I'd climb the stairs, my heart pounding, never knowing what to expect. My feet are killing me, she'd say, sitting on her bed with her legs stretched out. Would you mind rubbing them? I've been walking around the base all day. Would I mind? Would I mind? This was like asking if I'd mind winning the lottery or discovering a cure for acne or having Sandy Morrison fall madly in love with me. Sure, I'd say, trying to sound casual. I guess I could do that. I'd sit at the end of her bed, and she'd place her feet in my lap, and I'd rub them while she read a magazine or did her homework, and it was the most exquisite torture ever devised. Her feet were small, delicate, with painted toenails, usually pink or red. The skin was soft. Sometimes she'd make little sounds of contentment, and I'd have to think about baseball statistics or the periodic table or anything other than the fact that I was touching a beautiful girl. "You're really good at this," she'd say. "You should be a professional foot rubber." I don't think that's a real job. It should be. You'd make a fortune. After about 15 minutes, I'd excuse myself, mumble something about homework, and retreat to the bathroom with my Playboy, my hands shaking, my brain completely scrambled. This became our routine. A few times a week, Charlotte would call me up to her room, I'd rub her feet, and then I'd spend the next hour trying to recover my sanity. We hardly talked during these sessions. She'd ask about school sometimes, or tell me about her friends, but mostly we existed in this comfortable silence that felt both innocent and charged with something I didn't have the vocabulary to describe. My mother was pregnant during all of this, expecting my baby sister Anita, and she was in that glowing, happy phase where everything seemed right with the world. She loved having Charlotte around, treated her like another daughter. Sometimes I'd come downstairs and find them baking together, or looking at baby clothes, or laughing about something I wasn't privy to. "Charlotte's such a sweet girl," my mother would say. "You're lucky to have her as a friend." Friend. Right. That's what we were. Friends. Friends who had a foot-rubbing arrangement that sent me to the bathroom with increasing frequency. After the novelty of having Charlotte in the house wore off, and by wore off, I mean I became slightly less likely to walk into walls when she was around, I returned to my primary mission, winning the heart of Sandy Morrison. This was going about as well as you'd expect, which is to say, not at all. I tried everything. I'd accidentally bump into her in the hallway. "Oh, sorry, Sandy. Didn't see you there." "It's fine," she'd say, not even looking up from her books. I'd volunteer to be her lab partner in chemistry. "Mr. Patterson, I'd like to work with Sandy on the next experiment. Sandy's already partnered with Jennifer. You can work with Hans." Hans, of course, the German Adonis who'd knocked me unconscious. He grinned at me from across the room. "We make good team, yes?" he said. "Sure, Hans, great." I tried joining clubs Sandy was in. She was in the drama club, so I auditioned for the fall play, Our Town. I was so nervous during my audition that I forgot my lines and just stood there, sweating under the stage lights, until the drama teacher, Mrs. Henderson, gently suggested I might be better suited for behind-the-scenes work. I tried writing her a note, spent 3 hours crafting the perfect message, something that would convey my feelings without seeming desperate or creepy. I settled on, "Dear Sandy, I think you're really nice and pretty. Would you like to go to the movies sometime? Sincerely, Michael." I slipped it into her locker between classes, watched from a distance as she opened it, read it, and then my heart soared, smiled. She looked around, trying to figure out who'd sent it. I was about to step forward, to claim my note, to finally have my moment, when Hans walked up to her. "You like the note?" he asked in his stupid perfect accent. "You wrote this?" Sandy asked, her eyes lighting up. Yes. I think you are very nice and pretty. I'd love to go to the movies with you." I stood there, frozen, watching my note, facilitate a date between Sandy and Hans. The German exchange student who'd knocked me out was now stealing my girl, using my own words. When I got home that day, I went straight to the bathroom, didn't even bother with the Playboy, just sat there, fully clothed, contemplating the fundamental unfairness of the universe. "You okay in there?" Charlotte called through the door. "You've been in there for like an hour." "I'm fine." "You don't sound fine." "Well, I am. I'm great. Everything's great." There was a pause. Then, "I'm making popcorn. Want to watch TV with me?" I emerged from the bathroom to find Charlotte in the living room, a bowl of popcorn on her lap, watching The Twilight Zone. She patted the couch next to her. "Sit. Watch. Forget about whatever's bothering you." "How do you know something's bothering me?" "Michael, you've been in the bathroom for an hour. Either something's bothering you, or you need to see a doctor." I sat. We watched Rod Serling introduce a story about a man who could read minds. Charlotte shared her popcorn. Skipper came and sat on the floor in front of us. Marie joined us, then my parents. We all sat there, watching TV together. And for a little while, I forgot about Sandy and Hans, and my terrible face, and my humiliating life. "This is nice," Charlotte said quietly. "Just to me." "Yeah," I agreed. "It is." The weeks passed. October turned to November. The weather got colder, and the base started preparing for Christmas. My mother got bigger with Anita. Charlotte became more and more integrated into our family. And my acne, if anything, got worse. I tried everything. I washed my face 6 times a day. I stopped eating chocolate, then dairy, then anything that tasted good. I tried sleeping with a towel on my pillow. I tried that German cream again. I even tried praying, though I suspected God had bigger concerns than my face. Nothing worked. One particularly bad morning, I looked in the mirror and almost cried. A new cluster of pimples had erupted on my forehead overnight, angry and red and impossible to hide. I looked like a connect-the-dots puzzle. At school, I kept my head down, avoided eye contact with everyone, especially Sandy. In the cafeteria, I sat alone, picking at my lunch, when Charlotte appeared with her tray. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. "You don't have to," I said. "Your friends are over there." "I know. But you look like you could use some company." She sat across from me, and for a few minutes, we ate in silence. "It's the acne, isn't it?" she said finally. I looked up, surprised. "What?" "That's what's bothering you. Your skin." I wanted to deny it, to pretend I was above such shallow concerns. But what was the point? "It's pretty bad, huh?" "It's not that bad." "Charlotte, I look like a pizza. You look like a teenage boy. Most teenage boys have acne. Not like this. Not this bad." She studied me for a moment, her blue eyes thoughtful. "Have you tried everything?" "Everything. Creams, washes, pills. Nothing works." She said. And then she smiled, a mischievous smile that made me nervous. "I might know something that could help." "What?" "It's kind of weird." "I'm desperate." "Weird is fine." "Okay, but you can't tell anyone I told you this." "I promise." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "My grandmother used to say that if you rub a dirty diaper on your face, it clears up acne." I stared at her. "What?" "A dirty diaper. Like a baby's diaper. After they've peed in it." "You're joking." "I'm not. My grandmother swore by it. Something about the uric acid or the bacteria or, I don't know, the science. But she said it worked." "That's disgusting." "I know. But you said you were desperate." "Not that desperate." She shrugged. "Okay, just thought I'd mention it." She finished her lunch and left, and I sat there, contemplating what she'd said. A dirty diaper, on my face. It was insane, revolting, completely out of the question. A week later, at 2 in the morning, I was in Anita's nursery, holding one of her diapers. Anita had been born 3 weeks earlier, a healthy, beautiful baby with my mother's dark hair and my father's nose. She cried a lot, slept little, and went through diapers like they were going out of style. I'd been lying in bed, unable to sleep, thinking about Sandy and Hans, who were now officially dating. Thank you very much. Thinking about my face. Thinking about how I had a year and a half left of high school, and how I couldn't bear the thought of spending it as the acne kid who peed his pants. Charlotte's words kept echoing in my head. Asterisk. A dirty diaper. My grandmother swore by it. Asterisk. It was crazy. It was desperate. It was exactly the kind of thing that would either work miraculously or make everything infinitely worse. I crept into Anita's room, She was asleep in her crib, making those little baby sounds. The diaper pail was in the corner, full of used diapers. I opened it, trying not to breathe through my nose, and selected one that seemed recently used. Not too wet, not too dry. The Goldilocks of dirty diapers. I took it to the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at myself in the mirror. "This is rock bottom," I told my reflection. "This is as low as it gets." My reflection, covered in acne, seemed to agree. I closed my eyes and rubbed the diaper on my face. The smell was, well, it was exactly what you'd expect. Ammonia and baby powder and shame. I rubbed it all over forehead, cheeks, chin, nose. I felt like I was in some kind of bizarre hazing ritual. When I was done, I threw the diaper back in the pail, washed my hands about 17 times, and went to bed, trying not to think about what I'd just done. The next morning, I woke up and immediately went to the mirror, expecting to see either a miracle or a disaster. My face looked the same, maybe slightly less red, or was I imagining it? I did it again that night, and the next night, and the night after that. By the end of the week, something was happening. The redness was definitely fading. Some of the smaller pimples were disappearing. The big ones on my forehead were shrinking. By the end of 2 weeks, my face was clearer than it had been in 2 years. I stared at myself in the mirror, touching my face, hardly believing it. I still had some acne. I wasn't going to be a model or anything, but it was manageable. Normal. I looked like a regular teenage boy instead of a medical anomaly. "Holy crap," I whispered. "It worked. Your face looks better," Charlotte said one evening when I came up to rub her feet. I tried to play it cool. "Yeah, I guess." "No. Seriously. What did you do?" I hesitated. I'd promised not to tell anyone, but technically, she'd been the one to suggest it. "I tried that thing you mentioned." Her eyes widened. "The diaper thing?" "Yeah. And it worked?" "Apparently." She started laughing, not mean laughter, but genuine, delighted laughter. "Oh my God, I can't believe you actually did it. I can't believe it actually worked." "You didn't think it would work?" "I mean, my grandmother said it worked, but she also said that eating a raw onion would cure a cold and that you could predict the weather by looking at a cow's tail, so I wasn't sure how reliable her advice was." "So you were just messing with me?" "No, I mean, maybe a little, but I also thought, what's the harm in trying? And look at you. Your face looks great." "Thanks," I said, feeling my cheeks warm. "I mean, it's not perfect, but it's better." "It's way better. You look really good, Michael." The way she said it, soft, sincere, made something flutter in my chest. I focused on rubbing her feet, trying to ignore the feeling. "So what did the doctor say?" she asked. "What doctor? You didn't go to the doctor? Michael, you rubbed pee on your face for 2 weeks. You should probably make sure you didn't give yourself some weird infection." She had a point. The next day, I made an appointment with Dr. Carlson at the base hospital. He was an older man, probably in his 50s, with gray hair and the kind of face that had seen everything. "So," he said, looking at my chart, "your mother says your acne has improved dramatically." "Yes, sir." "What have you been using?" I hesitated. "It's kind of weird." "Son, I've been a military doctor for 30 years. I've seen soldiers try to cure athletes' foot with motor oil and treat sunburn with mayonnaise. Nothing you say will surprise me. I've been rubbing my baby sister's dirty diapers on my face." He blinked. "Okay, that surprises me." I explained the whole thing, Charlotte's grandmother's advice, my desperation, the miraculous results. Dr. Carlson examined my face, made some notes, and then sat back in his chair. "Well, I'll be damned. Is that bad?" "No, it's just, there might actually be some science to this. Female urine contains hormones, estrogen, progesterone. In theory, these hormones could affect sebum production, reduce inflammation. It's not something we'd ever prescribe, obviously, but—" He shook his head, smiling. "Your baby sister's urine might have just stumbled onto something dermatologists have been trying to figure out for years. So I'm not going to die?" You're not going to die. But maybe switch to actual acne medication now that your skin has calmed down. I'll write you a prescription for something that doesn't involve diapers. I left the hospital feeling vindicated. It had worked. It had actually worked, and I had the doctor's explanation to prove I wasn't completely insane. With my newfound clearish skin came newfound confidence. I walked differently, talked differently, made eye contact with people. It was like I'd been living in a fog, and suddenly the sun had come out. I even started talking to girls. Not Sandy, she was still with Hans, but other girls. Girls in my classes, girls at the base youth center, girls who actually seemed interested in talking to me. Look at you, Charlotte said one Saturday morning when we were all having breakfast together. Mr. Popular. I'm not popular. You're more popular than you were. I saw you talking to Jennifer Kowalski yesterday. She was laughing at your jokes. They were funny jokes. They were dad jokes. But she was laughing anyway, which means she likes you. My father looked up from his newspaper. Who likes him? No one, I said quickly. Jennifer Kowalski, Charlotte said at the same time. The Kowalski girl? My father frowned. Isn't her father a colonel? So? So maybe aim a little lower. Colonels' daughters are trouble. Dad, I'm just saying. In my experience, the higher the rank, the more protective the father. My mother swatted him with a dish towel. Don't discourage him. It's nice that girls are noticing him. Girls are noticing him because his face cleared up, Marie said. It's all very superficial. Thank you, Marie. Very helpful. I'm just being honest. Skipper, who'd been quietly eating his cereal, suddenly piped up. I think Michael should marry Charlotte. The table went silent. What? I said. You should marry Charlotte. You're always going up to her room. And she's pretty. And she lives here. It's convenient. Skipper, my mother said gently. That's not how marriage works. Why not? Because Charlotte is like a sister to Michael. No, she's not, Skipper said. Marie is his sister. Charlotte is different. Charlotte was blushing. I was blushing. Everyone was blushing except Skipper, who was just eating his cereal like he hadn't just dropped a nuclear bomb on breakfast. Anyway, my father said loudly, who wants to go to the Christmas market in town today? We all jumped at the change of subject. The Christmas market in downtown Wiesbaden was one of those magical experiences that made living in Germany worthwhile. The whole town square transformed into a winter wonderland, wooden stalls, selling everything from handmade ornaments to roasted chestnuts, the smell of Glühwein and Lebkuchen in the air, lights strung everywhere, a massive Christmas tree in the center of it all. We went as a family, me, Marie, Skipper, Charlotte, and our parents, with baby Anita bundled up in a stroller. The market was crowded with Americans from the base and German locals, everyone bundled up against the cold, everyone in good spirits. Charlotte and I wandered away from the family, exploring the stalls. She bought a wooden nutcracker for her father. I bought a glass ornament for my mother. We shared a bag of roasted almonds and watched a group of German children sing carols. This is nice, Charlotte said, her breath making little clouds in the cold air. I'm going to miss this. Miss what? This. Germany. Your family. You. Something in my chest tightened. You're not leaving, are you? Not yet. But my dad's tour in Turkey ends in February. I'll probably go back to live with him then. Oh, yeah. We walked in silence for a bit, the sounds of the market swirling around us. I'm going to miss you too, I said finally. You've been really great. Like the best part of this year, she smiled, bumping her shoulder against mine. Even better than your clear skin? Even better than that. Well, that's saying something. We bought hot chocolate from a stall and found a bench near the Christmas tree. Families walked past, couples held hands, children ran around with sticky fingers and wide eyes. Can I tell you something? Charlotte said. Sure. I was really nervous about moving in with your family. I didn't know if you guys would like me, or if I'd fit in, or if it would be weird. But you all made me feel so welcome. Your mom treats me like a daughter. Your dad tells me his terrible jokes. Marie lets me borrow her clothes. Skipper shows me his toy boats. And you? I rub your feet? She laughed. You rub my feet. But also, you're just, you're a good person, Michael. You're kind and funny, and you don't even realize how special you are. I peed my pants in front of my entire history class. So, everyone has embarrassing moments. That doesn't define you. It kind of feels like it does. Well, it doesn't. You know what defines you? The fact that you were desperate enough to rub a dirty diaper on your face because you wanted to feel better about yourself. That's not pathetic, that's brave. That's someone who doesn't give up. I looked at her, this beautiful girl who'd somehow become my friend, my confidant, my foot-rubbing client, and I felt something shift inside me. Not romantic love, or maybe it was, I couldn't tell, but something deeper. Gratitude. Affection. The kind of connection that doesn't come along very often. Thank you, I said. For what? For the diaper advice, for being nice to me, for making this year not completely terrible. You're welcome, she said, and then she leaned over and kissed my cheek. It was quick, innocent, the kind of kiss you'd give a brother or a friend. But my face burned where her lips had touched, and I knew I'd remember that moment for the rest of my life. December turned to January. The holidays came and went. My father got his orders. We were moving to Mobile, Alabama in March. Charlotte got word that her father was coming back from Turkey in February. Everything was ending, and I hadn't even realized it had begun. At school, something strange was happening. With my clearer skin and newfound confidence, people were actually talking to me. I got invited to a party. I made the basketball team barely, but still, girls smiled at me in the hallways. And then one day, in the cafeteria, Sandy Morrison sat down next to me. Hey, Michael, she said. I looked around, convinced she was talking to someone else. Hey? I heard you're moving to Alabama. Yeah. In March. That's too bad. I was hoping we could hang out more. I stared at her. Sandy Morrison. The girl I'd been obsessing over for 2 years. The girl who'd laughed when I peed my pants. The girl who was dating Hans. What about Hans? I asked. We broke up. He was too. I don't know. Too perfect? It was boring. Oh, anyway, I was thinking maybe we could go to the movies this weekend. If you want. If I want? If I want? This was everything I'd been dreaming about for 2 years. Sandy Morrison was asking me out. Me, the former pizza face pants peer. Sure, I said, trying to sound casual. That sounds fun. Great. It's a date. She got up and walked away, and I sat there, stunned, trying to process what had just happened. That evening, I told Charlotte about it while rubbing her feet. Sandy asked you out? She said, looking up from her magazine. Yeah. Can you believe it? Of course I can believe it. You're a catch, Michael. I'm really not. You are. You're tall, you're funny, your face cleared up, and you have that whole shy, sensitive thing going on. Girls love that. Do you love that? The question came out before I could stop it. Charlotte looked at me, surprised. I mean, I stammered. Like, in general. Do girls love that? In general. Yes, she said slowly. In general, girls love that. We didn't talk much for the rest of the foot rub. My date with Sandy was fine. We saw Swiss Family Robinson at the Base Theater. We shared popcorn. She laughed at the funny parts. Afterward, we walked around the base, talking about school and friends and the upcoming move. I'm going to miss you, she said when I walked her home. You are? Yeah. I feel like I'm just getting to know you. And now you're leaving. We still have a couple months. I know. Let's make the most of it. She kissed me goodnight, a real kiss, on the lips, the kind I'd been dreaming about for 2 years. It was nice, sweet, everything I'd imagined. So why did I feel so empty? We went out again the following weekend, went to the youth center, danced to records, held hands. She introduced me to her friends as her boyfriend. I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I kept thinking about Charlotte, about how she was leaving in a few weeks, about how I'd never see her again, about how she'd been there for me when no one else was. And I'd been too obsessed with Sandy to even notice. You okay? Sandy asked. You seem distracted. I'm fine. just thinking about the move. Don't think about that. Think about now. But I couldn't, because now was ending, and I was finally realizing what I was losing. Charlotte left on a cold Tuesday in February. Her father came to pick her up in a military sedan, a tall man with graying hair and her same blue eyes. We all stood outside to say goodbye. My mother hugged her and cried. My father shook her hand and told her she was welcome back any time. Marie gave her a bracelet she'd made. Skipper gave her a drawing of a boat. I gave her a record, All I Have to Do Is Dream, by the Everly Brothers. So you remember, I said. I could never forget, she said. And then she hugged me, and I held on maybe a little too long. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. Take care of yourself, Michael, and be good to Sandy. I will. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't going to last. Sandy was great, but she wasn't Charlotte. No one was Charlotte. We watched the sedan drive away, Charlotte waving from the back window until they turned the corner and disappeared. Well, my mother said, wiping her eyes. That's that. Yeah, I said. That's that. The next 6 weeks passed in a blur. I went out with Sandy a few more times. We had fun. We kissed. We made promises about writing letters and visiting that we both knew we wouldn't keep. I joined the football team, something I never would have had the confidence to do before. Turned out being tall and having long arms was useful for catching passes. I wasn't great, but I wasn't terrible either. My face stayed clear. I used the prescription Dr. Carlson had given me, and it worked. No more diapers necessary, thank God. And then it was March, and we were packing up the house, saying goodbye to Germany, preparing for Alabama. On my last day of school, Sandy found me at my locker. So this is it, she said. Yeah, this is it. I'm really going to miss you. I'll miss you too. We kissed one last time, and it was sweet and sad and final. Maybe we'll see each other again someday, she said. Maybe, but we both knew we wouldn't. Mobile, Alabama was hot, humid, and completely different from Germany. Our new house was smaller. The base was bigger. The school was overwhelming. But I was different too. I walked with my head up. I made friends. I tried out for the football team and made it. I even got a girlfriend, a nice girl named Rebecca, who laughed at my jokes and didn't care that I'd once peed my pants in front of my history class. I thought about Charlotte sometimes, wondered where she was, what she was doing, if she ever thought about me. I thought about that year in Wiesbaden, the worst year that became the best year. The year I learned that sometimes the solution to your problems is so weird and desperate and unlikely that you'd never think to try it unless you were at rock bottom. The year I learned that confidence doesn't come from having perfect skin or dating the right girl or being popular. It comes from having people who believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. The year I learned that sometimes the most important people in your life are the ones who show up when you need them most, rub your feet, or let you rub theirs, and tell you about their grandmother's crazy home remedies. I never saw Charlotte again. Never saw Sandy again either. That's the thing about military life. People come and go, and you learn to hold on to the memories instead of the people. But I still have that record, All I Have to Do Is Dream. And sometimes, when I'm feeling nostalgic, I play it and remember that year in Germany. Remember the girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, who changed my life with a dirty diaper and a kind word. Remember that sometimes the cure for what ails you is stranger than you could ever imagine. And remember that even in your darkest, most acne-covered, pants-peeing moments, there's hope. There's always hope. You just have to be brave enough or desperate enough to try something crazy. Asterisk, asterisk, epilogue, asterisk, asterisk. Years later, I became a writer, told stories about my life, my experiences, the weird and wonderful things that happened to me, and people always asked about that year in Germany. Is it true, they'd ask? Did you really rub a dirty diaper on your face? Every word, I'd say. Scout's honor. And it worked? It worked. That's disgusting. That's desperation. And then I'd tell them about Charlotte, about Sandy, about my family and that three-story brick house in Wiesbaden, about Elvis Presley records, foot rubs, and Christmas markets, about learning that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places, about learning that it's okay to be desperate, to be vulnerable, to try something crazy when nothing else works, about learning that the people who matter most are the ones who see you at your worst and still think you're worth knowing. That's the story. That's my story. And if you take nothing else from it, take this. Be kind to the awkward kids. Be patient with the ones who are struggling. Be the person who suggests the crazy solution, who offers the kind word, who makes someone feel less alone, because you never know, you might change their life, even if it involves a dirty diaper. I hope you enjoyed this story, and be sure to like and subscribe to Sko's Media's YouTube channel for more stories by Sylvester Sko. The Diaper Cure, a love story from Wiesbaden, Germany, 1960, by Sylvester Sko. Let me tell you about the worst year of my life that somehow turned into the best year of my life, all because of a beautiful blonde girl, a dirty diaper, and the kind of desperation only a 16-year-old boy with a face like a pepperoni pizza can truly understand. It was 1906.